that you are all joining us today. If you signed up and you're like, what did I sign up for? This is our lunch and learn, and we're gonna have such a fun time today. I'm Christina. I'm from Slate, and I'm one of the social media managers here, and I truly love being here. Because the reason I love being here is because we get social. Eric, who founded the company, gets social. So being here, it's nice. I never have to ask for approvals. He just goes, go for it. And I love that about Eric. So yeah, if you're here joining us today, we're so glad you are. Thanks for telling us where you're coming from. I'm going to kick it off to Eric, but before that, just know there is going to be a very fun giveaway at the end of this call. So if you stay till the end, that's right, we're going to try to keep it about 30 minutes. But if you stay to the end, there is going to be a fun giveaway. I'm going to enter all of your names into a draw, and then yeah, we'll do the like drum roll, and then I'll give you guys one of you a prize. So stay till the end. Make sure you're here because this is going to be a fun conversation regardless.
Thanks, Christina. Yeah, I'll do a quick intro and then I'm going to pass it off to the guest of honor, Sam. Hey, everybody. If you don't know me, I'm Eric. I'm co-founder here at Slate. I helped start the company about 6 years ago. And at the time, I was a social media practitioner myself, helping run social for the NFL. And before that, I worked for a few different NFL teams, including the 49ers and the Chiefs as a social media manager. So really kind of came up in the marketing world as a social media content creator and strategist, and realized, I often had to be a creative doer, as a social media manager. I had to learn a little bit of Photoshop. I had to learn how to be, dangerous in video editing tools. I had a bunch of apps on my phone that I used for different tasks to create content, and just realized there really wasn't that one sort of creative home for social media teams. And that's what we set out to build with Slate. So yeah, the idea for these calls is, we do a lot on LinkedIn, we do a lot of webinars, we're building up a Substack, a lot of sort of content out there. But there really isn't a good touch point between like kind of our audience and getting to know a little bit more about Slate in a setting that isn't, I guess as salesy, right? Like not everyone's ready for a one-on-one demo, to have their camera on, to answer questions and kind of have that whole back and forth. So this is meant to be, you know, as passive or as active as you want. Again, as Christina mentioned, you can have camera off. You don't have to say anything. You could be doing this in the background with something else and just try to learn a little bit more about Slate at your kind of own pace, but also feel free to ask questions in the chat, one-to-one with us after, or just, turn your camera on or come off mute and jump in. This could be as interactive as you want it to be. And we will try to keep it to 30, but we're also going to stay on past for anyone else that wants to linger and chat about Slate or social or otherwise. So yeah, like Christina mentioned, we'll be doing a giveaway at the end. So I think that's kind of all of the housekeeping there. So I want to kick it off to Sam Yehle, who is a longtime Slate customer. She brought us on during her time at Frida and now is using it at Nara Organics and has been very influential for Slate as a whole in terms of how we have evolved our platform to build more features across more use cases. And we thought it would be great, instead of us showing Slate, to actually bring on a core user and have Sam show how she uses Slate and talk about her journey as a social content creator in general, because she's had a fascinating arc that has really, been something that I think a lot of folks could learn from, and we definitely have learned from here at Slate. So, Sam, I'm going to pass it off to you to do an intro and then walk through your journey.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks so much, Eric and Christina. Hello, everybody. I'm super excited to be here. I was struck by some inspiration this morning and decided to put together one of those like super fast moving PowerPoint presentations. So I'm going to pull that up. That includes my intro and sort of like my the origin story of me using Slate. And like Eric said, it's been a couple of years now, so it's like my maybe my longest term relationship with of like a creative vendor at this point. So, all right, let's dive in. Okay. Alrighty, so this is the story of how I won the social versus brand war, which I know is not a battle that's unique to me by any means. So, my name is Sam. I used to be a jack of all trades marketer, very typical for people who find themselves in social. But then I joined Frida, the parenting brand. I had the same role, but it was a totally different ball game. And about 8 months into my role there, our president was like, we need to figure out TikTok and we need to figure out short form video. So a task force was assembled, a consultant was brought on board, and I volunteered to make a few videos. The first video went viral, and my career literally changed overnight. Like I went from being a generalist to being a social expert, even though I was still learning every single day. And it wasn't just my career that changed, it was the whole brand. We went from sort of this really curated, polished, millennial sort of presence on social and primarily on Instagram that was all tied up in long lead timelines since we had to brief things, months in advance. We went from that to being a modern social brand. And that was messier, native to the platform, and super fast, like no time to brief, let alone keep up with the volume of content we needed to create. So our views were skyrocketing. Like it was really like the golden age of social for us. But internally, I was getting a lot of side eye because as our content creator and the person who was thankfully given the reins to do everything from like concept through to execution, like I wasn't having to share what I was doing. Design team wasn't getting to weigh in and make sure that things looked on brand. So this tension arose, and it was what I know is super universal. It's the social versus brand and creative tension. And the feedback often was like, this is too chaotic and we've completely lost the brand here. Like, yeah, we're going viral, but what does that mean if people don't like know and recognize our branding and they can't really tie what they're seeing online to what they're seeing on shelf at retail or online? So I needed some sort of a solution. I needed a way to bridge what I knew was performing really well with what I knew was really important to the brand and the business. And that's when I saw a post on LinkedIn. And this was, again, like a couple years ago before personal brand building and founder building in public was really a thing. But it was one of Eric's posts and it was about Slate. And the thing that caught my eye was this was a video editor built by social media managers for social media managers. And there was one thing in particular that caught my eye, and it was Brand Hub. There was a tool inside Slate that allowed you to load your entire brand kit, everything from your fonts to your colors, overlays, logos, like the full nine. So I was like, this is the thing. But I had one major concern. It was that performance couldn't tank because at the time, this was like, again, 2 years ago when everybody was saying, like, you need to edit in the app, you need to use the native fonts, you can't upload content that was edited off platform. So I remember the conversation with Eric very specifically where I was like, if this hurts performance, we're out. And so we posted our first Slate video. I held my breath. I was like, I really want this to work because I like these people and I'm excited about this tool. And the results were business as usual. There was literally no impact to our performance, except there was one big change. And that was that everybody was now happy internally, not just the social team. And that's because the creative team felt included, not overridden. They felt like things looked and felt consistent. We were showing up with our colors, our fonts. There was a through line between our native video content and the designed posts that they showed up next to in the feed. And we really showed up in this like incredible way that, I think elevated the way Frida was perceived by customers. And this is my favorite example from earlier, or I guess it was last year now over the summer, our breast milk ice cream launch, where you can see almost, alternating posts of native content next to designed. And there's really not too much of a difference between them. It's just this incredibly beautiful mix of native and elevated. So 2 years later, Slate is still my daily editor. And the way that I think of editing tools as a content creator is the way a golfer looks at their golf bag. There are different tools for different shots. So Slate is my everyday social video editor. Perfect when I have like a simple edit. I already have the vision for it, text, supers, sound effects, go to, I get it done. If I have something that's like a bigger swing and there's like tons of layers and transitions and things like that, I'll usually move to Final Cut and then I'll export that file and bring it back into Slate to finish with all of my text and brand elements. So the bonus thing here that I have to mention with Slate is that there is a desktop editor. For the longest time before that, I only edited on my phone. And anybody who is a social media manager and a content creator knows that like you go into T-Rex mode and your eyes are strained. Post Slate, My eyes are relieved. My posture is upright, even though right now I am kind of like hunching over the screen. But this really was a big game changer. And as somebody who at the time was working a hybrid role, when you're in an office with somebody and say you're with leadership and editing, it helps to have what you're doing be on a screen. So that way you guys can look and work together in real time. And so the moral of the story here is that brand and native can exist, and you really don't need to choose between those two things. You just need the right tools to do it. And so now I'm going to take you through that workflow and show you one of the projects that I worked on recently in Slate. So let me just stop this share and I'll switch screens. Carter, my posture is shrimp. That is fantastic. All right, give me a second here. I'm going to exit out of this and then we're going to go into this. All right, cool. Can you guys see my Slate screen? Yes. All right. Fantastic. Okay. So this is the Nara Organics brand hub. And I don't think I mentioned it in the slide deck, but I am now with Nara Organics. I moved there in September. And literally the week before I started there, like as soon as I had signed the letter, I reached out to the Slate team and I was like, guys, I'm moving to a new job and I need Slate. And so they very quickly got everything that I needed set up before even my first day. So that like, this is one thing, actually, just a quick aside. Part of the reason why I've stuck with Slate as long as I have is because of the incredible support and partnership that I have had with them from day one. And you don't get that from tools, I won't name names, but some of these like bigger sort of legacy tools, you don't have a personal connection and it's impossible to reach out to somebody. And if there's something that you want in the app, there's no way to say like, hey, what if we had transitions, for example, which like wink, wink. I know Eric's going to take you guys through the roadmap for Slate, but like it has been such an amazing collaborative partnership where I let them know like, I really need this, this, and this. And they consider it in their overall roadmap. And I've seen things come out. Sound effects, for example, color dropper tool to be able to match colors if I uploaded something that isn't in my brand kit. And that's the coolest thing I think as a creator is feeling seen and heard and having a tool that sort of like grows with you. So anyway, my brand hub. This is our brand hub. So we have our brand colors. So when you click in here, um, you can drop in all of your, hex codes for your color kit. I actually collaborated when I was at Frida. In this case, we kind of loaded in based on a brand guidelines one pager. But like our art director actually set us up in Slate when I was at Frida, and she kind of went in and made sure that everything looked right. But you got your brand colors, typography. So this is actually one of my favorite things that has been added recently is these text presets. So I have here, there's like two sort of standard sets that we use for our content now. This is sort of like our modern headline for all of our videos, and this is the coordinating subtitle font set. And then we have, this is kind of like our older school one that we still use for some of our founder content. Can you guys see my mouse as I go? I think so, right? Yes. Okay, cool. What else? Graphics. So we have some of our graphics. These, like, instead of using in some of like your, native social video editors, you'll grab stickers and things, and that's when content can really start feeling like a mishmash. So what I do actually is I'll create stuff in Canva or I'll request it from our design team and then load it in here so that way it can add things like arrows or, little fun sunbursts and things like that. And then we also have, brand logos and claim stickers. And then audios. So this is a huge one. And this is another example of Slate answering the call. Just, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I let, Eric and the team know, I was like, I really need sound effects. And it's kind of a manual process to like source the sound effect, download it, upload it into here. Eric was like, hold on, and loaded an entire library in for me. So I started using that a couple weeks ago, which is amazing. But there are hundreds of options here. I actually curated a set of, I don't know, this is like 15 different sound effects that I use most and put it into a favorites folder. So that's really nice. You can sort of like organize your assets into groupings. And I think this would be really helpful, say, if you have like multiple different social series or content pillars, you could have like, this is our founder content, set of sound effects. This is our so on and so forth. All right. So that is a quick look at some of like my favorite things in our brand hub. Now we're gonna go home here and I'm gonna open up a project for us to look at. Here we go. We're gonna look at this bad boy. Okay, so this, before I show you what I did, I'm just gonna play the video for you guys so you can see what it looks like, and hopefully the audio plays. Let's just find out.
How do I scrape this? Like they don't have scraping part. One of the most annoying things as a new mom is making a mess with formula powder every time you make a bottle. So I made sure that when we designed our cans, we had a built-in leveler. So we're able to level the scoop versus leveling it at the edge of the can, getting powder everywhere on your kitchen counter. And we included a scoop holder so you don't have to go digging for that scoop. I actually saw a mom post about this exact issue. I just wish they had like a little scraping section. So shout out to Yuri. We fixed your problem. How do I scrape it?
Okay. Also, minor detail, but I do love that on the desktop editor, as you're, viewing through your content, it does automatically loop. So that way, like, you can make sure that at the end of your video, you don't have that like extra awkward gap or anything like that. So again, these are like the type A things that I look at. So that's the video. I'm going to open up the timeline here so you guys can see all the work that we did in here. And I'm also just going to move my Zoom thing real quick to the top so it's out of the way. Okay, so as you can see here, like I started, let me bring this down a little bit. I started with the stitched content. So I downloaded the TikTok video, I loaded that in here, and then I pulled in our founder's video that she recorded. I kind of cut that, made sure that I got rid of any obvious pauses. And then I started overlaying all of my B-roll. So I had shot this that same day, dropped it in, and of course, made sure that everything lined up really well with Esther's VO as she was speaking and explaining about our can. And then here, this is actually the first video where I did use one of those sound effects. So
I made sure that when we designed
the whoosh is there. So I dropped my whoosh in so that way it, coordinated with opening up the can. And then I kind of just like ping ponged back and forth between the different sets of B-roll and Esther's on cam delivery. And so that way kind of I hope, kept people's attention and interest. And then, yeah, looped in at the end here. I did one of these like inset overlays instead of a full screen, which I've been seeing lately and really like. And then after I was done with everything, I added the subtitles. So this is the fun thing here. I'm going to make this smaller so you guys can see the subtitle editor. So sometimes with subtitle editing, it is like a maddening process of like lining things up and making sure that the words on the screen match up with the words that the person is saying. But as you edit here, the subtitles do match up automatically. And also like if you need to line break, if one of them is feeling like too heavy, I just did one word at a time here. So everything's sort of laid out super simply, but you can edit here in line, or you can select the item here and edit it on the viewer, on the player. And then in the styles, this is where you can easily bop back and forth between your two different, or between at least my two different setups. So you can either choose, the outlined, my outlined, or my backdrop, or my background rather.
most annoying things as
And you can do them like individually or all at once if you wanted.
a mom.
That's that. Audio. We don't do a lot of embedded audio music beds because I usually try to pick a trending audio on Instagram. But you can, if you had like standard brand music or beds that you like to use, you can load those in and add them super easily. And then those graphics, like I mentioned, like if I wanted to add one of these, it's just a drag and drop, which is fantastic. You can resize easily and move things around. I'm going to delete that because I don't need it. And then there are a couple of other cool things that I don't necessarily use a ton. But I know like the sports teams, I'm kind of like a fangirl of all of the professional sports teams that use Slate. And I see them using a lot of overlays and backgrounds and intros and outros because they have more of that like ESPN type vibe in their content. We don't necessarily. So we kind of stick very, very typical, lo-fi video. And then the last thing I'll show again is you have your subtitle presets, but you also have your text presets. So this is awesome. You can type this and add your, whatever your text headline is really easily. change it if you need to. And yeah, highly customizable. I'm trying to think of what else. There's the eyedropper tool. I will show the eyedropper tool because again, this was like an ad that I was like so desperate for. But when you click into color, you have your brand colors, and then you can do an eyedropper, which is huge. So if I wanted to do this gray, I could do that gray really easily. And that was a game changer for me. Thank you, Slate team. Um, okay, Eric, that was kind of like a, word dump of like, here's how to do a project, but did I miss anything that you want me to
Yeah,
show?
that was great. Do you use the safe zones at all, or is
Oh,
everything kind of
yes. Yes,
preset
yes,
for
yes.
you?
Absolutely. So the safe zones at the top here, I do use, but I've also kind of like the safe zones are now burned into my mind, so I generally know where things go. But the safe zones are super important. Early days when we were like, for example, if our brand team created a video for us, the subtitles would always be in this area down here, and I was like, you got to move them up. So now it's super easy. Like as I create reels, for example. I know, keep them down here. Usually, sometimes lately I've been messing around with like the mid-screen subtitles as well. But safe zones is so important and such a life hack. And then yeah, you can just flip through literally any um, platforms safe zones. So I love
Great.
that. And then maybe I can show I also do our cover images in here.
Mm.
And that's also again been kind of like a real time saver. I used to have to do them like in Canva, so I was kind of like, juggling multiple different tools, but now I literally drop the photo in here and I kind of like save as, like I'll open a previous thing. So if you view all projects, I'll just select this one, duplicate, I open this, I drop in the new image and like the text is already there. So it's like again, some of these things are just making life like working smarter, not harder, and cutting all that like kind of tedious, annoying, busy work out of creating content and kind of getting it from idea to execution. And that is why I appreciate this whole hub so much. What else, Eric?
That was great. No, I mean, you
Cool.
showed a ton, and actually seeing like real projects in real life and how you're using the tool is so much better than, us just kind of doing a demo version of a demo video. I guess before I kind of show some of the roadmap stuff and what's coming up next, I do want to open it up and see if anybody has any questions. You can either ask in the chat or you can come off mute and ask questions about the tool. Um, does anybody have any questions that are burning that they'd like to know or see while we have the platform open here? Thanks, Alexis. Appreciate that. Cool. Well, if there's no questions right now, we could show the roadmap. Oh, Brady, what if a video file is like 5 minutes? Rambling. Okay, so are you asking Brady for like if there's any like audio leveling and kind of audio editing?
Yeah, I currently use Descript because I'm terrible at editing, and so I need all the like help I can get. And
Yeah.
so I've always wanted to try Slate as well, but I'm not sure like where it fits in the workflow of like if I record a video on my phone and it's pretty awful and there's kids running around, how do I get it from like a bad video on my phone into like something that I can edit in Slate? Or can I do all that within Slate and not Descript?
Good question. I could answer that, Sam. I don't know if you had thoughts that you wanted to dive in. Feel free to kick.
Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna say there is a denoise, which I think is like that's something that we use whenever Esther goes in, if she's in Target shooting content, and also
Yeah.
hi Brady. So I know that the denoise is in there. That's a great hack. I'm not familiar with Descript. Is that what it was called? So I have to look into that. But I mean, you have that, and then really like, it might not be quite the use case for it, but if you have like super long cuts, I don't know. I don't know if shortcuts would be relevant at all, Eric, but I will say I think like denoise is like the first stop for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So there's kind of two things. Like one is you could if you want to edit on mobile, you can just open that video straight up in our mobile app and then remove the background audio noise, and that will kind of clean up that, right? And then you can get to sort of editing and you could add captions there. You could, all the stuff Sam was showing on desktop, you can do on mobile in a way that looks and feels a lot like native Instagram or TikTok, right? Like tap to add fonts, swipe to add overlays, things that will feel lightweight to make it easy on the go, or you could bring it into the web editor and kind of start to work through that timeline. And we do have a feature called shortcuts, which Sam mentioned, which I could just share my screen now. This may be a little more one-to-one with some of the stuff that you might be seeing in Descript. In this case, this is more for long form content. So this is an interview.
I was confirming that he was frozen, but if, I was gonna share my screen instead, and if Eric is gone, I don't know like how to kick him off. But essentially, what you're seeing here on the screen is you've loaded in like a 2 hour, 30 minute kind of interview style. Sometimes you can go up to 3 hours, and what it does is it picks the best social moments. So as you can see here. It gives you chapters based on like what's happening in the video. And then in the section over here where you're seeing like relationship dynamics, or the screen's gone, he has left, but I'll continue explaining. So in those chapter moments, it's kind of going to go based off of your website and know what social moments would be good for you. And so it'll take those moments and then it'll actually clip down short videos that are ready for social. So it's going to give you like relationship dynamics or hot topics or specific speakers that are on screen. And it would go in and actually pick those moments for you, similar to Descript. But what you can do maybe differently in Slate is you can actually go into that and edit it yourself. So if you wanted to like clip it down to be shorter, or if you wanted to extend a clip or add visuals or audio, that's something Shortcuts does that I think is more a one-to-one example of Descript. So yeah, we can show you more about that if you're interested, if you want to stay on the call after, but uh, definitely a lot of things we could do with Shortcuts. We'd be happy to show you how that works and kind of give you a walkthrough if you're interested, Brady. Eric's back. He's back. There we go. I tried to explain your screen while you were frozen and tried to give everyone kind of a analysis of like
You
how
did a
short.
great job.
Thank you.
I don't even know how long I was talking for while I was
I
still
think you were
frozen.
gone for a while, and I was like, I'm just gonna start talking here.
I actually forgot you were part of the meeting for a while.
This is awkward.
It's fine. You're
Um,
back. I'm sweating. Ah!
I I see a raised hand.
That's me. Hi.
Hey,
Um, First of all, to Samantha, thank you so much for such a great conversation. If you're ever going to have like a talk specifically on how to stand your ground as like a social media manager, with like brand and design team, it's so like join. It's so interesting. And also I struggle with it on a daily basis. But I wanted to ask, it looks great. I love the Slate sort of platform and how it looks and everything. I wanted to ask specifically for posting on TikTok, will a video edited on Slate affect how it performs like sort of like algorithmically? Just because I don't know, like we're sort of discouraged to use basically anything other than like CapCut for
right.
editing videos and stuff. So I wanted to ask, yeah.
Yeah, great question. Sam, you can start.
I would love to. Short answer, no change. I think like the thing you have to think about is just like the content itself, like the content without any brand elements, whatever. Does the content feel right for social? And if it does, adding any of your brand elements, whether it's your headlines, your subtitles, whatever it is, won't have any impact. The thing that I think would be tough is if you took sort of like, YouTube or commercial style content and tried to use Slate for that, then it would just kind of feel like a Frankenstein and that wouldn't perform. But as long as what you're starting with is like good native social content, then there's no difference to the platform. And I actually believe Adam Mosseri recently in one of his lovely videos confirmed that it is okay to upload content from other platforms and there's no change. You just don't want the watermark from any other platforms, like no TikTok watermark on Instagram, but otherwise no change whatsoever. And that's exactly like that example I gave from Frida. There was no change in our performance and millions and millions of views, no problem. Which again, I would have been long gone if there had been an impact.
I was gonna say one more thing on top of that, Sam. It's like if you're following the format of hook and really engaging like text title hook and especially your caption being straightforward, I think essentially TikTok and Instagram act as like it still works as long as you're following the like formats that people usually use on social. Yeah.
So, let me attempt to show the product roadmap if there's no other questions for a few of the next things that we're building. And then we will do our giveaway and give everybody some time back. So I'll just show a few quick things here. I'm gonna turn my camera off just in case there's some lag. Okay, so a few things that are in the kind of immediate roadmap we're looking to release really in the next month or two. The big one is sort of our kind of foray into more Frame.io like collaboration. So we're going to be releasing shared projects, which will have kind of a few different use cases. Like the most obvious one is, being able to send around something for approval or collaboration and having people like comment and even like co-edit directly in the same place. The other is more of like what Sam showed of, she's saving her Reels cover images as a project that she then can use almost like a template. So having the ability to share a project across your team and say like, hey, this is our sort of saved template for Reels covers as a project that multiple people can then use whenever they want to create a cover image or something of the sort. And there's a lot of kind of possibilities here. And yeah, the first version will be sort of simple collaboration, but we're really looking to build out a much more Frame.io like level of commenting, which we think is really valuable, obviously, to have in the place you're actually editing the content as well. And the other, Sam mentioned she's kind of hopping over to I think she said Final Cut to use transitions. We obviously want to make Slate the place where you can edit end to end and not have to jump between tools. Sam already mentioned, not having to hop over to Canva to make one piece of yeah, in that case, the cover image as well. We know a big kind of slowdown in the workflow of social media teams, especially creating content, is this sort of hodgepodge of tools that you have to hop between to do different one-off tasks. So a big piece of that is, more and more video editing, what we consider just table stakes video editing. And transitions is a big one that we've been asked for by a lot of our customers, and we're excited to be releasing in the next month. The other kind of in the same line is animations, like being able to animate on B-roll or lower thirds or title cards or really anything, and kind of add those with the sort of sound effects that we've added into the platform. So again, stuff you might like kind of expect, but added to kind of our already kind of brand first like arsenal of editing, we know will be really powerful and then hopefully make it so teams don't have to like add a transition in CapCut and then come into Slate to add their branded overlays. And it just could be the one place where they're editing all their video that looks native and also on brand. I'll just rip through just a few important ones here. Captions translation. So this is for any teams that are looking to like localize content for global audiences or for multiple kind of different accounts that serve in other languages. This actually is live in our mobile app right now, but is coming to our kind of full platform and desktop editor soon as well. Our captioning tool already is one of our most like popular kind of used features, and adding the translations layer is something that a lot of our, again, more global organizations have really wanted, and we're close to releasing. And the last one I'll just mention here, and we won't go through everything, is Media Hub. So We feel strongly that, there's a really big opportunity to make social teams' lives a lot easier if media is saved in the same place that you're editing content. And again, it's the similar to that feedback loop of like where you're getting your approvals and feedback on your videos, you want to then be able to make those edits. So you're not exporting a million versions and having to upload it to, a Google Doc with comments and then go find the working version. Same with kind of finding your raw media, finding your B-roll, and then opening that up into a project to edit it, and like vice versa. Like all the projects you have exported also saved back into a DAM that your team can access and reuse and repurpose in a bunch of different ways. So we're going to be releasing kind of our first version of, our media hub, which really is like a dam for social media teams. And it's going to get sort of smarter and smarter as we go. Be something where, AI will identify what's happening in the clips or photos and help surface media that you could then use to edit content or even recommend edits, things like that shortcuts tool I was trying to demo where it's like automatically analyzing the transcript and allowing you to search in the transcript for any part of a video. That could happen kind of across all of your media once this sort of media hub vision is realized. So that's another kind of big piece we're building into the platform over the next year. Cool. I won't go through all of this stuff because I know we're already past our kind of 30-minute goal.
Eric, can I
Christina,
just add one real quick that I forgot to mention when you
yeah,
said
yeah, of
Media Hub?
course.
One of the best parts about working in Slate is that all of the projects are there. So, for example, when something goes viral for us, I'll immediately go back to that project and I'll spin a few different versions and I'll just update the intro headline and mess around. Like you can go back and play with variables and see, what works best. You can iterate easily, and that's something that we do a lot of. So that's like when I used to just edit on my phone, it was kind of like a mishmash of things, or I edited directly in either TikTok or Instagram, and there is no working file. So I think that's like a huge element too, is like people who really like to like get sort of surgical with their content, you can do that so easily. So yeah, important one.
So good.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, guys, yeah, I know we're a little bit above time, so we're gonna do the giveaway quick, and then we could just like leave this space open for questions, or if like anybody wants to dig into the tool a little more, we're obviously here, happy to show you how we use it as social people. So I'm going to share my screen really quick. I entered all of your names into this really beautiful spinner. Oh, so nice, isn't it? Okay, I'm gonna spin it. Here we go. The winner of either a gift card or a t-shirt is, drum roll, please. Jennifer K. Jennifer K, are you on this call? Jennifer. If you are here, Jennifer, please DM me on LinkedIn, find me on, if you're in our Slack channel, let me know. Happy to get that t-shirt or gift card to you. So thanks for being here, everyone. It was truly so good. Sam did such a beautiful job of really walking through her content and how things work. Sam is the pro here, as Eric is as well, who has done a lot of video content in the past. We also have some other team members here who work with video or image or creation. So if you're here and you really just want to ask questions, we're here for you. Otherwise, have a good day, everyone. We'll follow up with an email with this recorded session so you can either watch it again or send it to your boss to convince them you need Slate at your company. Otherwise, it was so good to see you all. And if you want to join us again and you like these open conversations, we have a webinar every month called the Social Club, where we just like chat social. So next month we have a special guest joining us, Rachel Carton. I'm going to post the link in this chat. So sign up. It'd be really fun to have you there.